Good evening, everyone. This is Shreyan from IGCP, today's moderator. I would like to welcome all the viewers who have joined our platform for better exchange of knowledge that is going to be shared by our keynote speaker doctors for today's session. On today's session will be a podcast session on a call to action for Bharat, combating four silent killers in India: anemia, cancer, diabetes, and NCTs. With much pleasure and honor, let me welcome today's host, Dr. Sharda Jain, ma'am. I would like to welcome ma'am at our forum. Welcome, ma'am. Ma'am is the Senior General DGF and also Consultant of Ops and Gynecology Department, Director of Life Care Center and Life Care IVF, and Secretary General of DGF, and founder and chairman of North Indian Gynecology Forum. Now, without any further delay, I would like to welcome ma'am at our forum and would like to hand over the session to her. But before that, I would like to request all our viewers to put up all their questions in the comment box, which will be taken up by the end of the session. And also, I will request all the viewers to give their valuable feedback by the end. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you very much. At the outset, I am joined by four experts who are top experts in the country as far as their specialties are concerned. First is Manju Puri. She is her USP is by many things, but I think as far as Anemia Mukt Bharat is concerned, Manju Puri has got a great contribution to make, and I'm sure it will be a pleasure for you all to listen to her. Uh, we have second person is Professor Dr. Sangeeta Gupta. She is going to again expert. She's going to talk on various aspects of anemia, how we are going to curb it. Third expert with me is Dr. Taru Gupta. She's going to take the problem of non-communicable disease, and the focus today will be on obesity. And we have Vandana, the youngest and the most meritorious person is Vandana. She's going to talk on diabetes, and gestational diabetes will be her focus. Uh, I will just get on my presentation. Yes. As you can see here, that our mission is get great help for India, combating silent killers in India, that is anemia, cancers, diabetes, and NCDs. Focusing on anemia today, a call to action. You've also known about our experts. The DGF and NIGF mission is my health, my right. Not only my health, my spouse health and my family health is important, and as a doctor we have to see to it that we align with India's fight against silent health epidemics. India is a home for 1.4 million people, and as you know, that 63% of the deaths are linked to non-communicable diseases. That's purely lifestyle. If you have to become Viksit Bharat by 2047, then we have to see to it that these silent killers, which are anemia, cancers, diabetes, and NCDs, are taken care of. Why they are silent killers? They're silent killers because delayed symptoms are there. By the time you come to know about them, they have done a lot of harm. They are associated with high mortality, but they are preventable with awareness. The silent killers, anemia, it has become a USP of our country. We are a lazy race. When people talk about China, everybody knows that they are most hyperactive race. But this label to us is not good. 4% of loss of GDP is there because of anemia. We know that 60% of women and girls are anemic, but 30% men and boys are also anemic. This is according to the National Family Health Survey 2021. And anemia is causing big concern. Dr. Manju Puri is going to dwell in detail in this. Second is the cancer. Out of 1.4 billion people, 1.4 million new cases are seen every year. Unfortunate part is 70% are diagnosed at late stages. This is our big body ICMR is telling. And the top cancers, as far the woman is concerned, they are breast is number one, cervical, oral, uterine, and ovarian cancer. The performance on prevention, as far as India is concerned, we are at we have a dismal record as far as this particular aspect is concerned. As far as diabetes is concerned, we all know Hindustan capitalized diabetes के लिए 100 million adults are affected, and it's projected to hit by 2045, when we are going to be Viksit Bharat, something like 135 million. It's a silent threat because irreparable damage before symptoms appear. 50% diagnosed, but this diagnosis comes 5 to 10 years late, and 50% remain undiagnosed. It is seen that young people who are going to the hospital with heart attack or a stroke, they have undiagnosed, untreated diabetes in majority of the cases. We all know that diabetes affects kidney failure. By the time you come to know about it, you are already on dialysis. Blindness, again, you can find that diabetic retinopathy is a big cause, and 50,000 amputation takes place in our country because of peripheral neuropathy getting onto unhealed wounds. And being a gynecologist, all of us are gynecologists, we are going to dwell on gestational diabetes and why we Indians are vulnerable to motapa. PM Modi found is a big challenge, and he throws it open to all medical fraternity that this particular problem has to be curtailed. Every citizen of this particular country has to wake up to this particular call. And this is, our culture is from home food is going to junk food. We are basically not doing any physical activity, and urbanization is taking a big toll. Now, coming to Dr. Manju Puri, these are various questions are there. I'm sure she is going to answer this. Dr. Manju, over to you.
Thank you, ma'am, for inviting me for this very important topic, to deliberate upon this very important topic. As you have, ma'am, could you move on the slide, please?
Yes, yes.
So as we know, and as Dr. Sharda has already said, that anemia is a silent epidemic. It adversely affects the health of individuals, and it is not only the health, it also has a lot of economic adverse impact on the economic development and economic growth globally. And it is the world's second leading cause of disability, responsible for 1 million deaths per year, which is a huge number. It leads on to physical and cognitive losses, and these losses in developing countries would cost up to 4% loss of GDP. So, which is again a very significant, amount. Now, how does it impact individuals? One, it leads on to reduced physical development, and once you are not physically, strong, it leads on to decreased work output and decreased work capacity. It also leads on to impaired sexual and reproductive development. How does it manifest? It manifests as irregular menstruation, low pre-pregnancy iron stores. I say young girls would be anemic, so they do not have any stores in them. And then it also leads on to low birth weight babies and preterm births, which again take a huge toll as far as the health of our nation is concerned. It also leads on to reduced cognitive development in children. So it leads on to diminished concentration. It leads on to disturbance in perception and also poor learning abilities. So meaning thereby that it has got a huge impact. Has the government been doing enough? The government has been rolling out multiple programs ever since 1970. That is more than 50 years. The government has been striving hard to combat anemia. So initially it was National Nutritional Anemia Prophylaxis Program. Then it was renamed as National Anemia Control Program. Then it was National Anemia Plus Initiative. And finally, Anemia Mukt Bharat in 2018. So all this while, the government has been actually expanding its net of beneficiaries, initially starting with only, the pregnant women, then took on children, and then Anemia Mukt Bharat took on adolescent, boys, girls, and women of reproductive age group who were not pregnant also. So all those were taken onto on board, and different strategies were kind of proposed. And it is now from 2018 to 2025, we already 7 years down when Anemia Mukt Bharat was rolled out. Next, please. So if we look at it, what has been the impact of all these programs? So you can see that if you see the red line, it tells you from NFHS 2 to NFHS 5, how have we done? And you have seen that from, the red line, which shows you the pregnant women. We started at around 50 and we are just above 50 after, say, a duration of 25, 30 years. And if we look at the other groups also, it has been the same. So where is the problem? Is the problem with the program, or is it a problem with the implementation of the program? So that is what we need to look at. We have been doing the same thing over and over and over again. Next, please. So if we keep doing the same thing, the focus has always been giving iron and folic acid tablet, and we have been saying that people don't take it, there is no compliance. But if that is so, then we need to look at the things little differently and do something different so that we get different results. Otherwise, we are going to get the same results, right? That is what has been happening for the past more than 50 years. Next, please. So what do we need to do? So that means if we have been telling people to take iron tablets, they are not taking, that means they are not aware of its, harmful effects. So we need to make anemia visible. Like Dr. Sharda said, these diseases are, they are non-visible. So people don't know that they are causing harm to them silently. So that means we need to think beyond IFA tablets for iron deficiency anemia. We also need to think beyond iron deficiency anemia to other micronutrient deficiencies. So it is not only iron deficiency, there are other micronutrients also which are deficient, like folic acid, B12. And then we also need to increase the ownership. So we need to tell everyone to be responsible for their own health. They need to understand what they are supposed to, how much should be their output. The output is not, optimum. So we need to tell them to take the ownership, increase the accountability of the healthcare providers who are actually distributing and, looking after the beneficiaries. And also to empower the healthcare providers to identify the gaps and plug them, because every place and every system has got their own gaps. So it is not one size fits all. So everyone has to come out with their own strategy. So it has to be a multi-pronged action involving all stakeholders, healthcare providers, beneficiaries, facilities, policy. Everyone has to get together and think, where do we need to make a change? Next, please. Yeah. So we start by deciding to eradicate anemia. First, by eradicating anemia in you, and then people around you, and then keep increasing and widening the circle of influence. So everyone has to be responsible, and everyone has to be, deciding that we do not want anemia to be around us. Next, please. So be a champion and identify more and more champions. So you can, if one champion is there, I'm sure they can stimulate many champions around it. And it has to be this collective responsibility which will work. So we need to make anemia visible. So how do we make it visible? For healthcare providers, we need to start diagnosing and including anemia in the diagnosis. So if I have a patient coming to me with abnormal uterine bleeding, so I will write abnormal uterine bleeding with anemia, right? So PID with anemia. So even if it is mild anemia, please put it in the diagnosis. If you put it in the diagnosis, then you investigate her and then you treat her, right? And the aim is not to aim for the lowest limits. We say pregnancy should be 11. That is the minimum. So even if the hemoglobin is 11, she could be iron deficient. So let's aim at bigger or higher hemoglobins. It should be above 12 in non-pregnant women. It should be 13. It should be above 11 in pregnant women. It should be 12. So that is how we have to do. And we need to do opportunistic screening for all people who come. If it is 50%, then to me, whosoever is coming, every other patient is anemic. So why should I not investigate her and treat her, right? So that is what is important. And we need to appreciate the power of CBC and peripheral smear. Not only doing hemoglobin, do the CBC, right? So do a CBC for all those who have a low hemoglobin. Look at the RBC count, look at MCV, look at MCH, look at the Menzer index. It will tell you whether she's got thalassemia or not. Is it right? MCB will tell you whether this patient has got folic acid and B12 deficiency or not. So please do that and look at that, and you would be much wiser. Next, please. Be aware of vitamin B12 deficiency. Look at not only the palm, but also the back side of the hand. If there is hyperpigmentation of the knuckles, it gives you a clue that this patient could be B12 deficient. And if you get a peripheral smear, if you have macrocytic anemia, or you have macrocytes, even a single macrocyte, means there is B12 and folic acid deficiency. Is it right? So please do look at these small things. Next, please. Counsel them effectively. So, we say that we tell them, नहीं, iron folic acid लेना है, उससे कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता है, उनको impact नहीं पड़ता है. So, to a pregnant woman and to the family, we need to tell that in case the woman is anemic, then the baby who's going to be born will have lower neurocognitive development, would not be as intelligent as those whose mothers are not anemic. The baby will have lower resistance, will have lots of infections later on, and is also predisposed to other non-communicable diseases like obesity, diabetes, hypertension in long term, So they would want their babies to be healthy. So that is what we need to focus on. We also need to tell them that if they take the woman is not anemic during pregnancy, less chances of blood donation at childbirth. It reduces maternal and perinatal morbidity and mortality. We also need to counsel them not to take iron and calcium together, because both are prescribed. Just tell them to take them separately. Take calcium with meal and iron, folic acid 1 hour after the meal. And also we need to tell them that, in case they have any side effects, they should not stop it completely. Let them take one tablet and then maybe another tablet after 2-3 days. So, gradually we need to support them, right? So it is an all and none law. So we need not do that. Then all possible opportunities should be made use of to correct anemia. Correct anemia in adolescents, correct anemia in preconceptional, recently married women, correct anemia in the postpartum period, correct them in the interconceptional period. So think of anemia. I think you should eat, sleep, do every part which you do should have anemia on the backside of it, right? Next, please. So, and the healthcare workers need to be empowered to look at the problems in their facility, in their area, and each person will have different problems. So they need to be trained in point of care quality improvement methodology, which is a methodology by which they can identify their problems and then find out possible solutions and implement them. So this is one skill which we have to impart them. Now remember that our world is not shaped by those who think similarly, but by those who dare to think differently. Each one of us should be a champion of preventing and eradicating anemia. All what we need is patience, we need persistence, we need perseverance, we need passion, and we need purpose. So I'm sure that all of those who are listening to this podcast would be motivated to start with the eradication of anemia from them and move on to their family, to their colonies, to their place of work. And I'm sure in no time we are going to be anemia free. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Manju, for telling everybody what is the impact of anemia and what havoc it is creating. Very rightly, you said you make it visible for everything, wherever the slightest anemia is there, it should be highlighted on each and every prescription. I think the government also has done quite a bit. They've made a series of PPTs which have to be circulated to each and every doctor and the nurse in this particular country. And they have given a very, very clear guidelines. It is the severe anemia which kills the mother. It is the severe anemia which kills the baby. And very strictly, all these patients where the hemoglobin is less than 7 gram percent need to be hospitalized. And they're also very keen. Whenever your hemoglobin is 10 gram or less, it has to be injectable iron, and injectable iron. I think, then only once we put all our passion and perseverance on this particular thing, we will see to it that if other people can eliminate anemia in those developed countries, the incidence of anemia is 5%, why we should be around 50%, I'm sure we will be able to definitely do that. Now coming to the second talk, that will be how to eliminate or how the curb as far as increasing cancers are concerned. Dr. Sangeeta is going to talk on this particular thing about these cancers. Over to you, Dr. Sangeeta. Sangeeta?
Thank you, ma'am, for giving me this opportunity and to be here on this platform. Now, the question arises in mind that why it is so important to discuss about cancer in women on this platform. So, the answer is very clear to us that the rising incidence of cancer in women in India makes us to talk about this. We want to increase the awareness about cancer in women, and there are five main cancers which are very common in women: are the breast cancer, cervical cancer, ovarian cancer, uterine cancer, and colorectal, oral, and lung cancers. Breast and cervical cancer are leading cause of death in India, and the incidence of cancer is increasing. If we see these statistics, 80,000, 1,80,000 new cases of breast cancer are there every year. And very important is one woman is diagnosed with breast cancer every 4 minutes in India, and every 13 minutes there is a death by breast cancer. So we can see how it is a significant killer of women of India. This rising incidence is basically because of the lifestyle changes, delayed childbirth, and urbanization. And if the cancer is detected late, then the mortality is 50%. And we all know that now it is occurring into young age girls also, but initially it started in the age group of 40 to 60 years. As far as next, ma'am, cervical cancer is concerned, next slide, ma'am. It is the second most common cancer in women after breast, and almost 1,20,000 new cases per year. But the most important point is it accounts for 25% of cervical cancers all over world. So why it is so? It is so because other countries have decreased the incidence of cancer by vaccination and screening, but in India we lag a lot as far as screening and vaccination is concerned. It accounts for nearly 17% of all cancer deaths, means a very high mortality rate. And most important thing is the cancer cervix is 100% preventable, 90% preventable by vaccination, and this 90% can be converted to 100% if the screening is proper and timely, regularly is done. Next, ma'am. Now, what are the methods? How can we the सब लोग हमसे बहुत क्वेश्चंस को commonly पूछते हैं कि how can the cervical cancer be screened, because our women are not aware. So it can be screened by three methods: pap smear, viability, and HPV testing. HPV testing has still a costly test, and we rely, as far as our country is concerned, on pap smear. So pap smear, viability are the cheapest methods, detects precancerous lesions. And why we want to detect them in precancerous lesion, or why screening helps? So if we do proper screening, we can at least diagnose in the precancerous stage when there is early changes in the cells. And once we see that there are early changes, proper treatment can be given and the progression to cancer can be prevented. Secondly, if the cancer is already there, we can diagnose the cancer in early stage, means a very early stage where the treatment is possible and mortality is very less. So it is very important that a regular screening should be done. HPV DNA test is most sensitive test. The implementation of availability of this HPV DNA test in government hospital is in the progress, and very soon we'll be getting these facilities in the government hospital. Now, how can we say that it is preventable? So this is the only cancer where we know the etiology, that it is caused by HPV. So if it is caused by HPV high risk factors, then we have taken out vaccines against those high strains. And if we give vaccination to all the girls in from 9 to 14 years of age, there are 90% chances that we can use it. Next, please.
Should we go further? Hello?
Sorry. all the treatment sequentially it occurs. Now, after breast and cervical cancer, there comes the role of ovarian cancer, and ovarian cancer is the most lethal because it is detected very late in life. There are very little symptoms, and symptoms are very vague. Means we don't see, we can't finger that this symptom is particularly of because of ovarian cancer, like bloating, pelvic pain, abdominal pain, early satiety, and urinary symptoms. These symptoms are very common symptoms in women, and they don't finger towards the ovarian cancer. And diagnosis is by examination, imaging, ultrasound, CT, and MRI, and tumor markers. Of course, they play a great role, like CA125, HE4, and risk of malignancy index. If we calculate, we can say the prognosis of the patient. And uterine cancer, very true, there is no screening in place, so diagnosis, so screening is very difficult. The patient comes to us with different problems like bleeding, excessive bleeding, lump, and dirty discharge. All these things, they can be combined in uterine cancers, and the diagnosis is basically done based on the transvaginal ultrasound, then a histopathological examination, endometrial biopsy, and which can be done under hysteroscopy guided. So now the question is what we have to do about these cancers. हम बात तो कर रहे हैं कैंसर का इंसिडेंस बढ़ रहा है, कैंसर is increasing, but how to make ourselves safe or safe from this cancer? So it is get screened, stay safe. Now screening is breast cancer. Conduct self breast examination after the age of 20 years, monthly after the periods. आप अपने डॉक्टर खुद बनिए. It just takes 1 minute to examine your breast and find if there is any lump, there is any change, there is any shape change, or there is any orange peel appearance. Or so we have to conduct a self breast examination, and we have to done a yearly clinical breast examination by the doctor. When you go to them for routine checkup, get it done. In case of cervical cancer, as I said, pap smear, HPV testing, co-testing, and Biavalli are the answer. Oral cancers, we have to have a regular health checkups. Any type of cancer can be detected if we have made a habit कि हमको साल में एक बार डॉक्टर को दिखाने जाना ही जाना है. In that condition, we can detect the cancers early. So, and if we detect the cancer early, treatment is early, and a better prognosis is there. Now, the second point, first I screen, now vaccinate to eliminate. The second main step is vaccinate to eliminate. So two cancers which can be prevented by vaccination is one the cervical cancer and another is liver cancer. So HPV vaccination, it should be given to every girl from 9 to 14 years against cervical cancer. We have to adopt the policy of 90, 70, 90, that 90% of girls should be vaccinated. Hepatitis B vaccination prevents from the liver cancer, and we have to follow the safe hygiene practices, avoid multiple sex partners, use protection to reduce HPV risk. Then again, healthy Bharat, cancer-free Bharat. Dr. Taru and Dr. Banna, I think both of them are going to emphasize the need of a healthy diet, exercise, giving up smoking, and giving up drinking, all these things. And most of this is obesity. Obesity is linked to breast and uterine cancer. So we have to maintain our weight, and we have to quit tobacco and alcohol. Next, please. So now, very important point. सुनने में लगता है कि बहुत छोटी सी बात है, but break the silence and spread awareness. Who has to break the silence? The silence has to be broken by the woman itself. वो बहुत डरती है कि मेरे को ये सिम्टम है, तो सबसे पहले उसको लगता है कि she doesn't want to discuss her problem to anybody, neither the family member nor the doctors, nor to anybody. So one has to break the silence, and doctors also have to break the silence. We have to talk about cancer. हमको भी लगता है कैंसर के बारे में बात करेंगे तो woman डर जाएगी. It's not this. Then we have to have the early detection. Early detection saves lives. Next, ma'am.
I think, yes,
our Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, he has recently, he has come up with this when we were talking about cancer prevention and treatment. He said that in cancer care, collaboration is essential for cure. Everything has to be integrated, means we have to have an integrated approach encompassing prevention, screening, diagnosis, and treatment. All are essential to reduce the burden of cancer in India. This is the statement given by our Prime Minister. So,
थैंक यू डॉक्टर
healthy
संगीता, आपने जो पंडोरा बॉक्स खोल दिया ना, एक तो एक बात जो बिल्कुल डॉक्टर साहब ने हाईलाइट की है कि हिंदुस्तान में एक बहुत बड़ी बीमारी है कि चेकअप के लिए जाना ही नहीं है। कुछ जाएंगे चेकअप के लिए तो कुछ निकल जाएगा तो क्या करेंगे। तो टाइम आ गया है कि जब हिंदुस्तान जागेगा तभी बचेंगे, तो जागेगा भारत तभी बचेगा भारत। मैडम ने बताया कि 1 in 4 केसेस में ब्रेस्ट कैंसर देखा गया, एंड एज फार एज सर्वाइकल कैंसर इज कंसर्न, आउट ऑफ 8 केसेस 1 person will have सर्वाइकल कैंसर। जो स्क्रीनिंग प्रोग्राम है, अकॉर्डिंग टू द गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया 3% लोगों की स्क्रीनिंग हो रही है, जो कि अभी जो WHO का हमारे गाइडलाइन आई है 90-70-90, that 90% people have to be given vaccination. And now one of the expert was talking, अगर आप 90% गर्ल्स को वैक्सीनेशन दे देंगे और 20 साल दे देंगे तो 20 साल के बाद यहाँ पर सर्वाइकल कैंसर नहीं दिखाई देगा। So let's come all together and start doing things as far as prevention of cervical cancer is concerned. This is one which can be eliminated. There are many countries in the Europe which are going to be declared cervical cancer free. If those people can do it, we can also do the same. Now, coming to this diabetes problem. Diabetes problem, I just now mentioned about it. In pregnancy, gestational diabetes is increasing. It is incidences around 15 to 20% now, and it is said by another 10-15 years it will turn out to something like 30 to 35%. Out of all cases of diabetes which we see in pregnancy, 90% is gestational diabetes. It is seen that the treatment is very simple. The guidelines which has been given by the government of India are very, very simple. Only doctors have to see to it that things have to be done. So now I'm asking Dr. Vandana, is universal screening possible to diagnose GDM? How the management can be made simple? So highlight on this particular thing.
Thank you, ma'am, for giving me this platform. And GDM, we have to really think, ma'am, next slide. It's a problem which is lifestyle related. So it's a problem we know, we have brought it upon ourselves, और हम इसको आराम से भगा सकते हैं. So Indian women are increased at 11-fold increased risk due to their poor lifestyle. That is no exercise and bad eating habits. Bharat is a capital of GDM, prevalence is rising, and it is associated with adverse outcomes. माँ और बच्चे दोनों के लिए. मदर को कार्डियोमेटाबॉलिक डिजीजेस हो सकती हैं, बच्चे को भी ओबेसिटी और अदर कार्डियोमेटाबॉलिक रिस्क हो सकते हैं. नेक्स्ट. So we have to see, it's a very silent progressor, and we have to see the woman comes to us in pregnancy. So we have a very big opportunity to test her, and all the women coming to us are DIPSI guidelines given to us by Indians. We can diagnose by giving her 75 grams of glucose orally and then testing for blood sugar 2 hours later. And if the sugars is less than 140, and then she is non-diabetic, but then we keep her on surveillance, that we do a repeat testing 24 to 28 weeks later. And again, if she is falling within limits, that is less than 140, then definitely she goes on surveillance every 3 weeks in second trimester and every week in third trimester. So anytime she gets diabetes, we catch hold of it and treat her. So we protect the mother and the baby. The targets would be the fasting blood sugar to be less than 90, before meals to be less than 100 milligrams, and after sugar it should be less than 140 and 1 hour, and when we are doing it on a self-testing. And after 2 hours, it should be less than 120. And nighttime sugars also should not go very low, 60 to 120, because we are targeting at an average fetal weight of 2.5 to 3.5 kilograms. Next, these targets are very easily achievable. It's a doable thing. If we put the patient on treatment, early diagnosis, and we monitor the patient. The monitor, we need to teach the patient how to do self monitoring. The treatment is 70% can be managed on diet alone, 25% would be needing oral anti-diabetics, and only 5% would have to go to insulin therapy. And we have to target 2 hours blood sugar to be less than 120. Lots and lots of counseling for the mother and the whole family is required to teach them what is the medical nutrition therapy ka jadoo. It is very simple. You have to change your diet to good grains, millets, leave high caloric, high glycemic index diets like cakes, pastries, and cold drinks. So, medical nutrition therapy and a 30 to 40 minutes exercise. It has to be done by the woman, and her whole family is included in it. And her blood sugars should be again checked after 2 weeks. And if we find the blood sugars are less than 120, then again we continue with the treatment, or if they are more than 120, we go on to drug therapy. Metformin is a simple oral drug which has been told to us has been very, very safe by government of India, and it can be given in pregnancy starting from 500 at night and increasing to 1,000, although we can go up to 2,500 also, but the side effects do increase. So this is a very, very safe drug, and we see to it that 25% of the women would be controlled on MNT plus metformin, and we would not need insulin. Although insulin, next slide please, is the gold standard, because here we are looking at the baby and the patients are always worried. डॉक्टर साहब हमारे बच्चे को कोई नुकसान तो नहीं होगा, हम उनको कभी खांसी की भी दवा दे रहे होंगे वो हमसे पूछेंगे. यहाँ पर शुगर ही आपके बच्चे को नुकसान दे रही है. सबसे बड़ी चीज समझने की ये बात है कि शुगर ही है. So it is very simple to make them understand, and once they understand, they will adhere to the therapy. So insulin therapy again is very easy. We start if the 2-hour postprandial blood sugars are greater than 120, we give them human insulin, which is premix of 30% immediate release and 70% long time. And they can be started at breakfast, and the dose is calculated according to the blood sugars. If they are between, that is the postprandial blood sugar, if it is between 120 to 160, we give 4 units. And if it is between 160 to 200, we give 6 units, and more than 200, we go to 8 units, and keep on monitoring her continuously. And the dose at which she settles down, we continue her insulin and MNT, and always keep on doing her blood sugars twice a week, so that we know that she is well controlled. If she is not controlled, suppose her fasting blood sugar is okay, but her postprandial is increased, so we increase that breakfast dose by 2 units, or according to the blood sugars she is achieving. But if both are increased, then we split the dose of insulin. We give 2/3 at the dinner time and 1/3 in the morning with the breakfast. And again, we keep on doing the blood sugar testing every third day till the dose of insulin is adjusted, thus thereby reducing the risk to the mother and the baby. Next slide, please. So we have to see to it that a regular monitoring has to be done, because we know GDM is related with lots and lots of serious fetal or baby complications, that is stillbirths can occur, and other risk could be spontaneous abortion, stillbirth, shoulder dystocia, hypoglycemia, intrauterine death, congenital malformations, birth injuries, infant respiratory distress syndromes, and long-term effects also of GDM on the baby in the form of diabetes mellitus, cardiometabolic disorders. Next. So these non-communicating diseases are progressing and are lifestyle disorders. When we have to deliver, it's a planning done by the gynecologist. We do not have to cross the date of due date. We have to individualize for each and every patient. And early delivery is indicated when there is poor glycemic control, या sugar control नहीं हो रहा, blood pressure आ गया है, या पहले कोई still birth हो चुकी है. All we want is a vaginal delivery, and cesarean is only अगर कोई उसको वजह है obstetric indications. When government of India says that if the baby is greater than 3.5 kgs, we can consider a primary cesarean section at 39 weeks to avoid shoulder dystocia and baby problems. So nothing is more expensive than a missed opportunity, because the woman is coming to us regularly. She's coming to us, so we look to her. We have to see that these women, although they will be free of diabetes, of GDM once the pregnancy is over, but it can come back 5 to 10 years later as diabetes mellitus. So postpartum counseling is very essential. They have to monitor their blood sugars yearly or maybe twice a year, and HbA1cs also. There is a very big risk of cardiometabolic disorders like diabetes mellitus, obesity, hypertension. So regular physician checkup is indicated. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Vandana. You have really made gestational diabetes control very, very simple. And as you said, हम लोग कहते हैं कि जो प्रेगनेंसी में वो सब मैनिफेस्टेशन आ जाती हैं, जस्ट लाइक ए विंडो, एंड इस विंडो को हमें विंडो ऑफ अपॉर्चुनिटी बनाना है. पोस्टपार्टम काउंसलिंग बहुत ज़रूरी है. आपको बताना पड़ेगा कि अगर आप लाइफस्टाइल चेंज नहीं करोगे तो 6 महीने में आपकी ओवर डायबिटीज़ हो जाएगी. अगर आप अपने बच्चे को भी मोटापा दोगे तो वो बच्चे को भी डायबिटीज़ हो जाएगी. एंड दीज आर द फ्यूचर सिग्नल फॉर अ कार्डियो मेटाबॉलिक डिजीजेस, बेसिकली द कार्डियोवैस्कुलर डिजीजेस. सो फिजिशियन चेकअप बहुत ज़रूरी है, और फिजिशियन को हैंड ओवर करना इनके लिए बहुत ज़रूरी है कि दे मस्ट फॉलो अ लाइफस्टाइल चेंजेस. Now coming to Dr. Taru Gupta, now we find that obesity हम लोग के यहाँ बहुत बढ़ रही है. लापरवाही और आराम पसंद जो हमारा जीवन है, we have become almost sedentary with no activity, and that's why our obesity is increasing in our country. And we have to take an active measure to combat obesity, because there are a lot of health consequences. And over to you, Dr. Taru Gupta. How,
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am, for giving me an opportunity, ma'am. Thank you. So, as we have listened to the previous speakers about diabetes, about cancers, they are basically non-communicable diseases. They account for about 63% of deaths before 70 years. But the key factor for all these non-communicable disease is obesity. So, my priority today is obesity. Obesity is a growing health concern, and 1 out of every 4 person is obese now. As per the latest National Family Health Survey, we can see that the obesity incidence is increasing in all age groups. It is more common in urban population as compared to rural population. Next slide, please, ma'am. Obesity, it affects about 24% of women and 23% of men in India, cutting across all socioeconomic groups. It is projected that by 2030, over 163 million Indians will be obese. And the cause for obesity is said that nearly 50% of Indians are not sufficiently active. So it is a sedentary lifestyle which is said to be the main contributor for obesity. And it is also increasing in rural population because of increased consumption of ultra-processed food and carbohydrate-rich diet. So what is obesity? It is basically excessive accumulation of fat with health risk. Traditionally, it is measured by BMI, body mass index, which is weight in kg upon height in meter square. So for the Asian woman, for our country, the normal BMI is 18.5 to 23. 23 to 25 is overweight, and more than 25 is said to be obese. Next, please. Other than BMI, the other important markers are waist circumference, waist hip ratio. These are very important, and they can be easily calculated. When a patient comes to our OPD, we should measure her BMI and also the waist circumference and waist hip ratio. For Indian women, it is said that the waist circumference, if it is more than 80 centimeters, it is an indicator for abdominal obesity. So the abdominal obesity or apple-shaped obesity, there are 2 types of body forms. Gynecoid or pear-shaped, when the fat accumulation is in the lower body, that is hips and thighs. And the other is android or apple-shaped. Here the fat is more in the upper body, so it is known as abdominal obesity, visceral obesity, or Indian pot belly, or central obesity. So this is a thing which is associated with more adverse side effects. As per the latest survey, it is said that 40% of women and 12% of men in India have abdominal obesity. So these are the women patients with a high risk for non-communicable diseases, that is hypertension, diabetes, all these. what are the causes for rising incidence of obesity? Number one is high calorie, low nutrient diets. Like the patients, they are consuming more refined carbohydrates like biscuits, pastries, and increased saturated fats. There's some noise behind. Then second is easy access to processed food. There is easily available ready to eat meals. Then culture of eating at restaurants, then use of genetically modified crops. These all things, they causes impaired metabolism and increased chances of weight gain. Physical inactivity, and the more time of using screen. So the mobile phone use, the lifestyle, that is eating unhealthy food, junk food, and the sedentary lifestyle. These are the main contributors leading to obesity, increasing incidence of obesity. And next slide. So what are the health consequences? The obesity, it affects from head to toe. It is responsible, it increases the risk for hypertension, heart disease, stroke. It increases the risk for diabetes, increases the risk of cancers. In women, it increases the risk for breast cancer, uterine cancer, colon cancer. So all these cancers are just more seen in affluent class, in obese women. Then respiratory problems, there are more sleep apneas, more chances of asthma. Then joint problems, हमारे जोड़ हैं वो 50 kg वेट के लिए बने हैं, नी जॉइंट, जैसे डॉक्टर शारदा मैडम हमेशा बताते हैं, तो उससे ज़्यादा है तो it will lead to joint problems. So now coming to the management, most important, foremost management option is the lifestyle changes. It is the most important thing. रामबाण यही है, diet control, exercise, behavior therapy, yoga. This is the most important for control of obesity. So we should take a low calorie diet, low carbohydrate, low fat, but rich in vitamins, minerals, rich in fibers. This diet should be adopted. In fact, जो हमारे इंडियन ट्रेडिशनल डाइट है, जो हमारी दादी मामी नानी खिलाती थी, थाली जिसमें हरी सब्जी है, दाल है, दही है, चटनी है, दिस इज वेरी गुड. और बच्चों को शुरू से ही, बचपन से ही हमें ये जो हेल्दी डाइट है ये खिलाना चाहिए. बच्चों को एक्टिव मोबाइल बाहर खिलाना, ये सब चीज़ें बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. देन देयर इज अ रोल ऑफ ड्रग्स ऑल्सो एंड अ सर्जरी. बेरियाट्रिक सर्जरी हमें मॉर्बिड ओबेसिटी पेशेंट्स में देना होता है. मैम, कैन वी गो लिटिल बैक?
Yes.
So, Government of India has given us a Eat Right project. Eat Right India. Eat Right India campaign was launched in 2018 by Honorable Prime Minister, sir. So basically, the aim is to provide safe and healthy diet to all Indian population. Ma'am, next please. So the mission for this Eat Right India project is to reduce sugar, salt and fat in the diet. आज से थोड़ा कम, मतलब ये तीनों चीज हमें डाइट पे कम करना है, sugar, salt and fat, because these are the culpable agents which are leading to all the non-communicable disease. The logo of Eat Right India is pretty very clear. It says that we should take plenty of water, and then greens, that is vegetables and fruits, should be taken liberally. Cereals and pulses should be taken in adequate amount, and this is the one which should be used sparingly. That is the food and drinks which are rich in fat, sugar, and salts. So it is very self-explanatory. Our plate should be like this: 50% should have vegetables and fruits, and the rest by whole grains and high quality protein. So जितना colorful diet है, जितना हमारे पास fruits है, seasonal fruits, हरी सब्जियां, कलरफुल सब्जियां, this should be our diet, which is rich in vitamins, minerals, fibers. So this should be taken in abundance for a healthy health. The second is physical activity. So physical activity is most important, very important for weight control, because diet alone cannot. They both have to go together. Other than weight control, it has multiple advantages. It reduces the risk of hypertension, diabetes. It is very important for the bone health. बोन डेंसिटी बढ़ता है. यदि हम रेगुलर एज वॉक करते हैं तो इट इंक्रीजेस द बोन डेंसिटी. सो हमारे 1 घंटा हमें अपने लिए देना है, कैसे भी दीजिए. 1 घंटा आपको वॉक करना है, जो भी आप करना चाहते हैं, डांस करिए, एरोबिक्स करिए, पोचा लगाइए, वॉट एवर, बट फिजिकल एक्टिविटी इज मस्ट. चिल्ड्रन में इट इज सेड दैट अबाउट 60 मिनट्स का विगरस एक्सरसाइज करना है पर डे, एंड फॉर एडल्ट इट इज सेड दैट 150 मिनट्स का मॉडरेट इंटेंसिटी एक्सरसाइज पर वीक इज ओके. But definitely since Indians, we are ethnically predisposed to abdominal obesity. We should do, it is said that we should do around 20 minutes का हमारा 20 to 50 minutes का walk ब्रिस्क वॉक हमारा पर वीक होना चाहिए. So to conclude, I would say that obesity is a silent epidemic, and tackling obesity is not just a health necessity, but it is a step towards realizing the vision of Sarveshth Bharat and a healthier and productive Viksit Bharat by 2047. So Pot Belly is not a sign of prosperity; it is a sign of bomb. So I would like to conclude by quoting a statement of Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji, that by making small changes in our food habits, we can make our future stronger, fitter, and disease-free. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much. I think Motapa Roko Bharat Bachao. I can only say one sentence on this. So coming to the concluding slides, that is Bharat Jagega to Bachega Bharat. And we have a lot many national programs by the government of India, but I will say there are far too many government initiatives, but talmil nahi hai, accountability is less, and I think we have to really work on that particular thing. There are many programs by the government of India. You can see the list is endless. But I think coming to the concluding slides, that we have to see to it in cancer. डर नहीं, पर जांच आपकी बहुत जरूरी है. डरना नहीं आपको, जांच आपको जरूरी है. और join this particular movement of Save India. Together we can defeat all silent killers. We will have a concluding slide, concluding remarks by all of them. I can only say one thing. हर भारतीय को अपनी 6 चीजें जानना बहुत जरूरी है. उसका हीमोग्लोबिन क्या है, उसका ब्लड प्रेशर क्या है, उसका वेट क्या है, उसका BMI क्या है, उसका ब्लड ग्रुप क्या है, और उसका ब्लड शुगर्स आफ्टर 75 ग्राम ग्लूकोज लोड क्या है. So with this, I will ask each one of you to say the concluding remarks.
Ma'am, I think a lot of good messages have gone in. जो इम्पोर्टेंट है वो ये है, सेल्फ केयर कॉन्सेप्ट है. मतलब हम अपना ध्यान करें और फिर हम अपने आसपास वालों का ध्यान करें. एवरीथिंग बिगिंस फ्रॉम मी एंड मी. और अगर मैं अपना ध्यान रखूंगी और मैं इसके बारे में अवेयर हूं कि मेरी आउटपुट और मेरी हेल्थ जो है वही सब कुछ वही सबसे ज्यादा इम्पोर्टेंट है, तो ऑटोमेटिकली सारी चीजें जो हैं वो सेट हो जाएंगी. तो मेरी अकाउंटेबिलिटी मेरे को है. उसके बाद क्योंकि मैं हेल्थ केयर प्रोवाइडर हूँ, मेरे को बाकी सबकी भी उनको स्टिमुलेट करना, उनको भी इस बात के लिए अवगत और कराना और अवेयर कराना भी मेरी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है. आई थिंक दैट इज व्हाट इट इज.
Thank you, Manju. Dr. Sangeeta.
What I would like to say that there are 3 A's responsible for cancer. It is the awareness, accessibility, and affordability. So we have to focus on 3 A's, that we have to increase the awareness regarding the cause of cancer, regarding the how to prevent it, then how to early detect it. If you have detected it early, then how to treat it. So for the treatment and screening also, we need to have the accessibility. हमको मोबाइल यूनिट्स बनानी होंगी, गवर्नमेंट को लोगों को ट्रेन करना होगा. जैसे आप कह रहे हैं मैम कि we have to make the pilot trainers in cervical screening, so that this can reach up to the rural area, because cancer cervix is the disease of the rural area. So we have to make mobile units, we have to train our doctors, and then we have to give the affordable treatment, may it be chemotherapy, radiotherapy, or any molecular therapy. We have to go up to every extent to curb the damage done by the cancer in Indian women as well as India. And ultimately, my final sentence is a structured awareness program with education, regular screening, lifestyle modifications, and vaccinations can significantly reduce cancer-related deaths among Indian women. So we have
Vandana,
to focus
your
on
last
all
minute
these.
comment. Vandana.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, because diabetes is a silent progressor. It comes very silently, and आपको जब पता चलता है जब तक 5-10 साल निकल चुके होते हैं और काफी कुछ नुकसान पहुंच चुका होता है. तो simple thing is live well, live longer, know your risk, know your response, early detection for better outcomes. Small changes make very, very big impact. And WHO says breaking barriers, bridging gaps, ensuring equitable diabetes care for all. should be the aim of all healthcare providers, starting from the pregnant woman, क्योंकि वो एक जननी है और वो हमारे पास आती ही आती है, तो हम उसके बच्चे में भी बचा सकते हैं डायबिटीज होने से, और उस बच्चे को हम abnormality से बता सकते हैं, because diabetes is a harbinger of diabetes in the next generation, because generation to generation जाती है, और हम बचा सकते हैं आराम से. Thank you.
Dr. Taru Gupta.
Then we should counsel that one should invest in her health and lose the weight and gain a new life. So basically counseling and awareness is very important. और उसके साथ में जैसे हम उनको जो भी पेशेंट्स हमारे पास आते हैं तो उनको हमें डाइट के बारे में बताना है, हमारा जो देसी खाना है उसकी हेल्दी डाइट क्या है, कैसे उसको इनकॉर्पोरेट करना है, एक्सरसाइज, रोल ऑफ योगा भी उनको बताएं कि योगा इज़ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. जो आजकल मल्टी मोडालिटी ट्रीटमेंट गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया फोकस कर रही है. सो बेसिकली द ओबेसिटी इज अ मदर ऑफ ऑल नॉन कम्युनिकेबल डिजीजेस. तो वी हैव टू टेल देम दैट टाइमली इंटरवेंशन कर सकते हैं तो डेफिनेटली वी कैन अचीव आवर गोल. हमारा एसडीजी गोल भी है कि हमें जो एनसीडी से डेथ हो रही है वी हैव टू डिक्रीज इट बाय 3% by 2030. जो अभी 63% हमारी डेथ्स हो रही है, we have to decrease. It is one of the SDG goal also. So we can achieve that. For that, awareness, counseling is very important.
I think we are ending with a hopeful note. We can do it. Others have done it. We can also do it, and we can do it together. And this awareness has to be translated into action. We have to speak up. And I think ये जो annual checkup वाली बात है, ये mandatory should be mandatory for everybody. जब तक भारत जागेगा नहीं तो भारत बचेगा नहीं. So हमें जागरूकता करनी है. I am sure all this particular group is very, very hopeful that these silent killers we should be able to overcome. Thank you very much for joining me for this on this particular platform. To each one of you, if there are any questions, Shijon, we will be able to take up.
First of all, ma'am, there is no such question. Still now, we haven't received any question. And with my thank you note to all, that thanks for this wonderful session. I would especially like to thank Shatajan ma'am for hosting such a wonderful session. And I would like to thank all the panelists for sparing their time for us. Thank you for joining. Thank you so much.
Today we are joined by the stalwarts of Delhi. We are really thankful to each one of you. And thank you, Met Talks, for giving us the opportunity to do these national talks. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good night.
Thank you.